Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are filming in yet another new location. So I'm visiting my friend Amanda, who lives just outside of Camden, in the southern part of New Jersey, and she's got a very nice basement, so I'm basically sitting at her little table down here while she's working and filming some beer reviews during the day, so quite nice actually. But for this review we are going to go to a brewery that has featured on the channel once before, albeit that was in an out and about video. This is going to be my first solo brewery beer review involving these guys, but they are one of the most highly regarded breweries in the state of New Jersey, so that makes this one pretty interesting. Now, the beer itself is a style that I very much enjoy, one that has been becoming increasingly popular over the last few years, and yeah, one of my favourite German styles of beer as well, I have to say, and one of this brewery's kind of core flagship beers, if we can call it that too. So, needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So, yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit north of where I am, near Camden, to Ocean, and we're going to have a look then at my first solo beer from Kane Brewing. So, this particular beer is called Monmouth Gold. It comes in, I believe, at 4.8% ABV, and they're describing this one as a Munich-style Helles lager. So, yeah, for those of you who don't know, the technical definition of a lager is that it's a beer brewed using a bottom fermenting yeast. It usually ferments at colder temperatures in comparison to ale, so you're talking about 8 to 12 degrees Celsius when you ferment a lager, and about 15 to 18 when you ferment an ale. And the Helles lager is basically a German blonde lager. The Czech equivalent of this would of course be the Schwettli. But yeah, definitely cool to return to Kane Brewing. We did an out and about video there which was filmed a few weeks before this one, although I'm not sure exactly when all of these videos are going to publish, so you might see this one first. But anyway, cool to feature Kane Brewery on the channel again, since these guys are one of the most highly rated breweries in New Jersey, and definitely cool to get one of their flagship beers in a style that I very much enjoy. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what this beer has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done or will do in the future from Kane Brewing. Very first time these guys are featuring on a solo brewery beer review. I don't think I've done any collaborations involving these guys either. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist along with many other things, and that is being added to quite regularly at the moment, so do check that out. But yeah, let's get on with this one then. We'll go on to my brewery notes and I'll tell you a wee bit about Kane Brewing. So Kane Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Ocean in New Jersey, which is about halfway up the east coast of the state, and the company was founded back in 2011 by Michael and Erica Kane. So Michael had previously been a home brewer, and he started brewing originally at the age of 22, basically having a desire to recreate some of the Belgian and German beers that he had tasted during his travels to Europe. But he studied in Fairfield up in Connecticut and was extremely interested in the growth of the American beer market that was seen during the 1990s, and then later he also saw the growth of the Vermont breweries, which he visited on his various snowboarding trips up there. But he later studied for an MBA at Notre Dame University and then worked on Wall Street in New York in mergers and acquisitions. He worked in this field for a number of years, but he continued to homebrew and visit breweries around the world. But after winning medals in 2009 at the National Homebrewing Competition, however, he started to take his hobby more seriously and started researching and planning to found his own brewery. But he and Erica moved back to New Jersey, which is his home state, And he founded Kane Brewing officially in 2011, leaving his job in finance, and they found a location in a warehouse in an industrial park in Ocean, and this apparently had previously been home to a casket shop, so this is where you go to buy your coffin basically, or now they make beer. But yeah, they started out with just one building, but they've expanded quite drastically over the years, and now they occupy, I think it's 4 different buildings. But in the early days, Michael hired a brewer and brought in his friend Glenn Lewis to handle sales. They opened the tasting room at the brewery a bit later because the laws allowing tasting rooms weren't quite in effect when they started up the company, and then Erica joined the company officially in 2016. But a number of the brewers have gone on to form their own companies over the years, and the brewery's been expanding their barrel and sours program in recent times. But this year, in 2023, very early on in the year, they opened up their new tap room, which is where I filmed the Out and About video, and they've got 16 beers on tap there at any one time. But as of September 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 770 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything, as I say, that I can tell you about Kane Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So this one is a 473 milliliter can, 1 American pint, or 16 fluid ounces if you want to go into the Freedom Units side of things. But there you can see quite clearly Kane Brewing Company on the label there. And yeah, I think this is one of their more kind of plainer, one of the more plain labels that you'll get from these guys. But it kind of makes sense when it's one of their more kind of regular beers. They do a lot of interesting labels on the more kind of experimental things. But there you can see Monmouth Gold. As we mentioned earlier, it comes in at 4.8% ABV, and this one is a Munich-style Helles Lager, which we described a little bit earlier on, basically. That's it. But the main difference for me between the Munich Helles, there is also the Dortmunder Helles as well, which is a little bit more hoppy, I found. Slightly stronger as well, if I'm not mistaken. The main difference, though, between the German Helles Lager and the Czech Svetli would be that the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more kind of yeasty and a little bit kind of spicier in their green components because of the Czech hops. The Munich ones tend to be that little bit kind of smoother and just a little bit drier. Actually, in comparison, and obviously the German hops are different. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see how we go on. Amanda very kindly let me use her Stein glass, which is from Tonewood Brewery, who are really quite close to us here. So I'll need to visit that brewery at some point. I'm not sure if we're going to have time this time, but we'll just need to see. But yeah, we've got a nice Stein glass for this review, which is always good when you're reviewing the nice German lagers. So yeah, anyway, you can see that this beer has poured pretty much as you would expect from the style. But yeah, you've got a nice finger of a frothy, I would say, if we put it under the light, we've got a finger of a nice kind of frothy cream coloured head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there. It gets a little bit foamier the further up that you go, but you're also getting some nice kind of soapy bubbles a little bit further up there too. But colour-wise, this beer, it's got a little hint of amber to it, but it's really a kind of very deep, rich yellow. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts that you put into the beer, will also affect the colour of it too. But when it comes to Helles lagers, to be quite frank, you don't often have to care about that. But yeah, it's got a little bit of natural haze to it, this one as well. You can see that if I put my fingers behind the glass there. But it looks pretty nice, I have to say. I do like how this one goes together. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the surface of the beer. But yeah, I really don't think there's anything surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is when we talk about its appearance. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. Oh yeah, this is pretty nice. So what I always look for in these German-style beers that are not German is authenticity. I want these beers to be as they would be in Germany. And yeah, the American ones, what I've noticed with some of the American ones is that they are pretty authentic in terms of their flavour, but sometimes they're just a little touch sweeter because of the American grains. And yeah, the mouthfeel is a bit different because of the water profiles. And that's not something you can really get away from, to be honest with you. You see that in pretty much every country that brews these kind of beers. Even back in Scandinavia, these beers do tend to feel that little. You can feel the difference in the water, essentially. But yeah, I will say from the aroma, this one does come across as being pretty damn authentic. So that's pretty good. Yeah. So, on the malty side of things, well, generally speaking, this beer gives you everything you'd want. You've got a little bit of kind of dry bready character in there. You've got a nice little bit of, you know, you've got a nice little bit of sweetness. You've got a bit of hoppiness, and you've also just got that little touch of fruity character as well. So everything in this one goes together really quite nicely, I have to say. Yeah, so for me, the place to start with this beer would be the malty side of things. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. That forms the backbone of the beer. You've got a good little bit of, you've got a really nice little bit of kind of, how would you say? You've got a nice little touch of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker coming out of it too, and a little bit of a woodiness. So there's a little bit of that in there, and to be honest, it does smell like they're using Munich malts in this. It wouldn't surprise me. The malty character in this one does come across as really authentic, actually, and so does the hoppiness too. So yeah, lovely little bit of kind of wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one, but that's got a little touch of sweetness to it as well. You get the fluffier white bread kind of sitting on top of that, which is great, and then you've got the kind of sweeter side of things coming out of this one too. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, so on top of that, you do get a little bit of sweetness out of this beer. So you can smell, on top of the fluffier white bread, you can definitely smell there's a wee touch of sweetness coming out of this one. And remember, alcohol does play quite a big role when it comes to the flavours of these beers. That's why the alcohol-free ones just never really kind of taste the same in my mind. But yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of, you do get a nice little touch of kind of sweetness there, which you get a bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit type character for sure. To the Americans watching, that's like a kind of cookie type character. But then yeah, you've also got this more kind of concentrated, oily biscuit that comes out of the beer. So yeah, big kind of oily sweet biscuit in there. Yeah, oily sweet biscuit, and that's the alcohol giving you that. And then you've got the kind of sweeter, more grainy biscuit just you know, rearing its head from underneath. So yeah, overall, the malty side of this beer is quite nice. You do get a little bit of woody, crackery note from the yeast as well, which is quite interesting, but I think we're going to get more of that coming out in the actual flavour of the beer. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so I think we can move on to the hoppy side of things. And to be honest, the hoppy side of this beer is kind of what you'd expect. So there's a little bit of, yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of herbal note coming out of this beer. You get wee touches of earthiness as well, so there's a wee bit of earthiness, a wee bit of herbal character, but yeah, the green component really leans toward a more, yeah, it really leans toward a more kind of floral, got a quite nice bright floral aromaticity to it, which is typical of your German Tettnang and Hallertau hops, and then yeah, you've also got that lovely kind of bright, grassy sort of character coming out of this one too, which is really, really nice. Yeah, aroma-wise, I think this beer goes together really quite well. Yeah, I think the green component really leans toward that more floral, grassy side of things in terms of its green component. These are all things you would expect of the style, of course. And then you've just got a little touch of fruitiness coming out of this one. So let's have a wee look at that. Yeah, for me, fruity side of the beer, is again what you'd expect. There's a nice little bit of like oily pear coming out of this one. There's a wee tiny touch of apricot in there. Maybe a little bit of sultana, you know, like white raisins, dry white raisins. There's a little bit of that going on. And then, yeah, on top of that, you have, on top of that, you just get a little bit of, there's a little bit of fresh green apple at the start of the nose there, which I think is at the front of the nose, which is great. Yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I do like the way this one appears. Nothing unusual about it, gives you exactly what you want from the style. But as I always say, take a wee bit of time just to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck in. I think it's about time that we have a look at this beer then and see what it's all about. So this one is the Monmouth Gold, Munich style Helles at 4.8% ABV. My first solo brewery beer review involving Kane Brewing Company from Ocean in New Jersey. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Got a nice big gulp of that there. That was pretty damn refreshing, I have to say. Yeah, I'm going to say this beer is pretty authentic. First impression is, I'm actually wondering now if I did try this one. I've got a feeling that I might have tried this beer. Either that or it was a Pilsner. I did have a lager when I actually went to visit the brewery, so I'm wondering if I've tried this one. Because it feels a little bit familiar. Yeah, I definitely tried something like that. Oh, there's the water pipes. Yeah, I definitely tried a lager quite similar to this. But as I've often said, the American lagers tend to be a little bit different in their kind of mouthfeel, if you like, and that's what you get in here. This one feels a little bit wetter and also just a touch sweeter than what you would find in Munich. And I think generally speaking, the American palate is sweeter than the European palate. That's absolutely fair to say. So yeah, let's break this beer down though and describe it a bit more in depth. I like this though. Middle third of the palate, you get that lovely kind of fresh, white bread crusty backbone coming out of this one, and that goes together really nicely. As I say, big thumbs up from me. So yeah, as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of like woodiness in there. So you have fresh white bread crust, a little touch of woodiness in there. You've got a wee bit of like a kind of Jacob's cream crackery note sitting on top of the bread crust. Yeah. Jacob's cream crackery bread crust in there. On top of that, you've got some nice, you do get this layer. This beer actually does agree with the aroma quite well, I would say. The flavour kind of coincides, you know, converges what you'd expect from the aroma quite well. So you've got this layer of like wholemeal, brown bready type character coming out of this one, which is really nice. Then on top of that, you've got a fluffier white bread in there. So yeah, lovely wholemeal brown bready character, fluffy white bread. Then above that, the beer does, as I say, the beer does kind of sweeten up a little bit the further into the aftertaste that you go. So above the white bread, you start to get the sweet, the alcohol and the kind of brown sugary bits coming out of this one. So you can feel that there's a layer of like a kind of McVitie's Digestive biscuity type character coming out of this one. So yeah, McVitie's Digestive biscuity type character coming out of this one. In this dead centre of your palate, you get a nice little circle there. So you get that nice oily circle there, and it's, as I say, it's kind of biscuity underneath, and it's got a little bit, you can feel the kind of more concentrated, oily sort of biscuity flavour. Maybe it's got a little touch of honey to it or something like that. But you can feel that more in the dead centre of your palate. You get that little circle there where you've got the more kind of oily, you've got that more oily kind of sweet biscuity thing there, and that kind of covers the alcohol, that more concentrated oily biscuity thing. And that's really nice how that goes together. But certainly the further into the aftertaste you go, you get more of the kind of grainy McVitie's Digestive, pardon me, type biscuit coming out of this beer. So that's really nice. Yeah, I think that covers the middle third of the palate, to be honest, in this one. Let's go on to the back third of the palate. Now, remember the general trend with your palate as well, that sweeter flavours come out further forward, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. You will find that with quite a lot of beers. But the flavours you get on the back third of the palate tend to be quite similar to the middle third of the palate. So keep that in mind, but they just come out at different intensities. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of brown bready build up in the base, a white bready build up further up. Then the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a lovely little bit of that kind of drier white bready bread crust in there. So yeah, drier white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, you get the cream cracker, which again feels a little bit kind of drier, for sure. Then you've got the wholemeal brown bready layer, which feels a little bit taller and more airy. And then above that, you've got the white bready layer, which feels that little bit taller and more airy as well. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, over the back, on top of all of that, you can feel some of the drier aspects of the biscuit just kind of creeping their way over the top with this one. And then above all of that, you start to get the kind of yeasty side of the beer there. So the yeasty side of this beer, for me, you've got this more kind of concentrated, like dense, sweet, bready, doughy character there. Then just wrapped around it, you can feel it's got a little bit more of a bread crusty, woody sort of vibe to it. Then you've got a little bit of a kind of, you do have a little touch of a kind of, I would say, yeah, there's a good bit of, you know, honeycomb kind of stuff just kind of coming out of this one. Yeah, there's a good little bit of a type of honeycomb character just wrapped around that yeasty note there. And yeah, but definitely back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, really, really nice lager beer, this one, from that perspective. The malty side of things is really nicely done, but just a little bit sweeter and a little bit wetter, I think, compared to what you might find with, say, Augustiner Helles, which is arguably the best Munich Helles. Tegernsee Hell is very good as well. Eyinger always do solid beers. Weltenberg, who are not too far away from Munich as well, do really nice things. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the hoppy side of things. So the back corners of the palate, then you get this nice little bit of earthiness coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely little bit of earthiness in there. So yeah, lovely little bit of smooth earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little bit of herbal character, and as you push further forward toward the front corners of your palate, you get that lovely kind of bright floral aromaticity in there. And then round the front curve of your tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. and it has just a wee hint of zestiness to it. So it's really nice. But these are typical noble hop qualities. You know, the Hallertauer Tettnang that has been used in this one. I'd be curious to know whether it's Mittelfrüh or one of the slightly higher Alfast ones, maybe a little bit of Pearl or something like that. But yeah, it goes together really nicely. Let's have a wee look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. Brown bread in the base, white bread on top, as we had on the back third of the palate. The base of that front third of your palate, there's a lovely little bit of kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. Then on top of that, yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, there's a bit of the brown bread, mainly the white bread there, and then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer for me is kind of what I expected it would be. At the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit of sultana, a little bit of a kind of, you do get a little bit of sultana, you get a little bit of a kind of raisiny thing, well not raisin, yeah, sultana, dry white raisins I should say. As you move further forward from that, you get a nice kind of oily pear. Yeah, there's a nice sort of apricot-y dryness in this one as well, which is good. So yeah, oily pear, apricot-y dryness. Then when you move further forward from that, you get a wee bit of like a fresh green apple. As I say, these are all things that you can associate with this style quite closely. Yeah, I think this goes together really nicely actually. Yeah, gets a thumbs up from me. I think this is a really nice Helles beer. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I think we said everything we need to in the tasting section. Let's go on to the mouthfeel section. So, for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer is light bodied. The carbonation does have a degree of crispness to it, which is nice, and you know, you would want that in a more humid environment such as you have in America. So yeah, you've got that coming out of this one. Nice kind of crispness to the beer. I would say that it's kind of, as I say, it's a little bit wetter than what you'd find in Munich itself, but it does give you more of the dryness into the aftertaste. In terms of the IBU, I think it's fair to say this one is 20-ish IBUs, which is normal for the style. The malt base has a bit of dryness underneath, a bit of smoothness in the middle, and a little touch of sweetness on top, and then you've got that lovely kind of wet, fruity character coming out of this one, which is really nice actually. I do like how this how everything in this beer just kind of pieces together like that. So gets a big thumbs up from me. I really do like how everything works in this one. So I think we can leave it at that for this review, to be honest with you. I think we've covered everything we really need to say about this. Really solid lager beer, this one, and you can see why it's quite a popular, almost like flagship beer for them. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This one is the Monmouth Gold. A Munich style Helles at 4.8% ABV, one of the core range beers at Kane Brewing in Ocean in New Jersey. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Kane Brewing as well, and we will see about returning to these guys again at some point in the near future, because they do have a lot of good beers. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Kane Brewing social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, Skål.